Blood is thicker than water. That is what they told you your entire life. You were raised to believe that family is your ultimate sanctuary. The only people on earth who will unconditionally guard your secrets, overlook your flaws, and celebrate your dreams without condition. It is a beautiful story. But Machiavelli saw a far more disturbing truth beneath it. Your family can become the most dangerous intelligence network in your life. Because they share your blood, they feel entitled to every part of you. They do not see your boundaries as signs of self-respect. They see them as acts of betrayal. There are 7 things you must never reveal to them. Say the wrong one, and you hand them the exact weapon to quietly dismantle your life. And the second one explains why you feel drained every time you leave them. Let them think they know you, but never let them see or know these things. The first revelation, the architecture of your escape. We begin with the most dangerous piece of information you carry. Do not tell them your ultimate ambition. Do not reveal the true scale of your financial climb. And above all, never disclose your strategy for complete independence. You assume your family wants you to succeed. They do, but only within certain limits. Psychologists describe the family unit as a homeostatic system, a biological cartel. It survives on balance. It assigns each member a role: the golden child, the scapegoat, the caregiver, the one who never quite makes it. The moment you start making moves that violently disrupt the role you were cast in, you become a threat to the entire system. If you announce that you are accumulating serious wealth, or that you are planning to relocate your life across the globe and sever your dependencies, you expect applause. What you receive instead is sabotage, disguised as concern. Is that investment really safe? You seem different lately. Are you sure you are not being reckless? We just do not want to see you get hurt. Hear the venom underneath those words. They wrap their panic inside the language of love. They want to clip your wings and convince you it is a warm embrace. Study history. Look at Cosimo de' Medici, the architect of the most formidable dynasty in Renaissance Europe. Cosimo commanded incomprehensible wealth. He effectively controlled the papacy and the state of Florence. Yet how did he present himself to his extended family and the public? He rode a mule. He wore simple robes. He lived in a house that was refined but deliberately unassuming. Machiavelli examined this behavior closely. Cosimo understood that displaying his true power would generate envy even within his own bloodline. Envy is the most intimate of all sins. It does not flourish between strangers. It festers between equals, between brothers, between cousins. When you reveal your grand plan, you invite their envy. You invite their unsolicited opinions. You invite them to calculate exactly what your assent means for their own standing. Stop seeking their approval. The powerful do not request permission to move. They move, and they let the results speak. Hide your finances. Conceal your next professional maneuver. If you are planning an exit, look them directly in the eye, smile warmly at the dinner table, and quietly pack your bags in the dark. By the time they understand that you have outgrown the cage, you must already be completely out of their reach. Are you beginning to see the invisible strings wrapped around you? Because the next piece of information you are giving away is the precise reason those strings are tightening around your throat. Before we go deeper into the next revelation, take a moment, hit the like button, and subscribe to this channel to stay in touch. The second revelation, the map of your unhealed wounds. This is the rule most people violate, and it is the one that ultimately destroys them. Never confess your deepest psychological vulnerabilities. Never expose your childhood traumas. Never reveal the core resentments you carry against your own family members. Modern therapy culture has handed you a catastrophic fantasy. It tells you that if you sit down with your parents or siblings, look them in the eyes, and explain in precise detail how they damaged you, they will experience a sudden, profound awakening. They will weep. They will apologize. You will heal together in some cinematic moment of reconciliation. Erase that image from your mind entirely. When you hand your family the detailed map of your psychological wounds, you are not offering them a path to healing. You are handing them a precise targeting system. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince regarding fortresses, "A ruler who builds fortresses against his own people will find that those fortresses simply become prisons." When you expose your deepest vulnerabilities to your family, you believe you are constructing a bridge. You are actually illuminating exactly where your defenses are weakest. Consider the mechanics of family enmeshment. When conflict inevitably erupts, and it will, human beings reach instinctively for their most lethal weapons. If you have previously confessed that your greatest fear is abandonment, or that you privately struggle with feeling inadequate, observe what happens the moment your mother or sibling becomes angry with you. They will not address the actual disagreement. They will aim directly at the wound. This is why people always leave you. You have always been too sensitive, just like you told us. They will deploy your confession with the surgical precision that only blood relatives possess. A stranger can insult you, and you shake it off by morning. A family member knows exactly how to slide the blade between your ribs because you drew a target on the exact location. You must cultivate absolute emotional sovereignty. If you have trauma, process it with a professional. Work through it in the gym. Pour it into your private journals. Do not carry your broken pieces back to the people who broke them and ask them to reassemble you. They do not possess the tools. When you interact with your family, present an exterior of calm and composure. If they inquire about your internal struggles, offer them a carefully controlled, sanitized version of the truth. Give them the headline, never the full story. "I had a difficult week, but I handled it." That is all they receive. You strip them of their power the moment you strip them of access to your pain. A person who cannot be emotionally destabilized cannot be controlled. You become an enigma, and families are deeply unsettled by the child they can no longer easily read. Do you feel the cold clarity of this logic settling in? Good, because if you think exposing your own wounds is dangerous, wait until you understand what happens when you expose someone else's. The third revelation: the sins of your chosen partner. The third thing you must never share with your family involves the interior life of your romantic relationship. Never vent about your partner's shortcomings. Never tell your parents about the arguments you have with your spouse. Never disclose the financial pressures, the intimate betrayals, or the momentary failures of judgment your partner commits. The reason is a psychological phenomenon called triangulation. When you fight with your partner, your emotions run hot. You want an ally. You call your mother or your brother, and you unleash everything. You catalog every terrible thing your partner has done. You position yourself as the victim and your partner as the villain. 2 days later, the storm passes. You and your partner talk it through. You forgive each other. You share a meal, and the bond is restored. You have moved forward. Your family never will. You carry an emotional mechanism that allows you to forgive your partner because you love them. Your family does not have that mechanism. To them, your partner is an outsider, a foreign element that has entered the bloodline. The moment you plant the seed of resentment in your family's mind, it takes root and grows into something you cannot kill. Years from now, they will still view your partner through the lens of that single argument. They will nurse quiet hostility. They will make cutting remarks disguised as jokes at holiday dinners. Machiavelli was ruthless on the subject of divided alliances. He understood that a ruler must never allow two separate factions of their life to cross-contaminate each other. When you bring your family into your marriage, you have invited an outside army into your private fortress. You compromise the sanctity of your own union. And you look weak. By running to your relatives to arbitrate your romantic disputes, you signal that you are incapable of governing your own household. You revert to the position of a child seeking parental rescue. Intelligence professionals who study behavioral framing understand that human beings read authority through autonomy. If you manage your relationship entirely behind closed doors, projecting nothing but unified stability to the outside world, your family is compelled to respect the boundary. If they ask how things are going with your partner, the answer is always some variation of, "We are doing extremely well, thank you." If your partner is flawed, address it directly. If your partner is genuinely toxic, remove yourself. But under no circumstances do you delegate your relationship management to your blood relatives. You are simply handing them the instrument they will use to methodically erode everything you have built with your chosen partner. Construct a psychological firewall. On one side, your blood. On the other, the life you are building with the person you chose. The two must never be weaponized against each other, and you must never function as the double agent who leaks intelligence between both sides. How many times have you broken this rule? How many times did you seek comfort only to realize you purchased it at the cost of your partner's reputation? The fourth revelation: your shifting philosophies and private heresies. As you grow, you will inevitably outgrow the belief systems you were raised inside. Perhaps you were raised in a strictly religious home, and you have quietly become agnostic or atheist. Perhaps your family reveres the safety of a conventional 9-to-5 career, and you have committed yourself to the volatile, demanding path of building something of your own. Perhaps they hold entrenched political convictions, and your understanding of the world has moved in the opposite direction entirely. Do not announce your heresy. Never tell your family that you believe their entire worldview is fundamentally mistaken. This is not cowardice. This is strategic energy management. Robert Greene, in The 33 Strategies of War, examines the principle of choosing your battles with precision. Why would you exhaust your finite mental resources fighting a war of attrition at the dinner table? You cannot use logic to dismantle a belief system that your family constructed over decades using emotion and deep psychological conditioning. When you declare that you have abandoned their ideology, they do not register an intellectual disagreement. They experience a profound personal rejection. What they hear is, "I am superior to you, and the life you built was a complete waste." The ego cannot absorb that kind of assault. They will counterattack. They will attempt to drag you back into their framework. They will pull you into exhausting circular arguments that leave you depleted and spiritually hollowed out. Consider the historical treatment of heretics. The Inquisition did not engage in theological debate. They burned people for threatening the established order. Galileo was correct about the movement of the earth, but insisting on that truth in the wrong arena earned him house arrest. You are a strategist. You are not a martyr. If your beliefs have evolved, then live them. Execute your new understanding. But when you are in their company, apply Law 3 of the 48 Laws of Power. Conceal your intentions. Blend in seamlessly. When they preach their familiar dogmas, smile with polite composure, nod slowly, say, "That is an interesting perspective," and then return to constructing your life exactly as you have chosen. You owe them basic human respect. You do not owe them your intellectual surrender, nor do you owe them a detailed account of your personal evolution. Allow them to believe you are exactly who you have always been. The performance of conformity is a trivially small price to pay for complete internal freedom. They receive the comfort of their traditions. You receive the uninterrupted silence you need to build your future. Are you beginning to see the pattern? Every piece of information you withhold is another brick in the fortress you are quietly constructing around yourself. You are still here. That matters. Those who could not face this reflection have already left, retreating back into the warm, suffocating embrace of comfortable delusion. But you are a strategist. You are still here. You are starting to understand that the people who share your blood are not exempt from human nature. In fact, their proximity to you makes them the most skilled practitioners of it. We have secured the outer perimeter. You conceal your exit strategy. You guard the map of your psychological interior. You quarantine your romantic life from family interference. Now we move into the most deeply embedded taboos, the revelations that, if spoken, will transform your own bloodline into a parasitic organism feeding directly on your vitality. The fifth revelation: your hidden treasury and private contingencies. Never reveal the precise details of your financial position. Do not disclose your emergency reserves. Do not explain your private investments. Do not tell them how much you have truly accumulated as a buffer against crisis. We are conditioned from birth to think of family as a collective safety net. The tribe protects its own. It is a sentiment that was functional in hunter-gatherer societies. In the modern financial world, it is a death sentence. When you reveal surplus, you create a target. Machiavelli wrote that men sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance. He understood that money activates the most primitive circuitry of the human brain. It overrides logic. It overrides loyalty. If your family knows you carry a substantial financial buffer, their relationship to personal responsibility shifts fundamentally. They become reckless. Why should your brother endure the indignity of a soul-crushing job when he knows you have the capital to cover his expenses for a year? Why should your parents exercise financial restraint when they have quietly assigned your bank account the role of their retirement plan? They will not ask you directly to fund their choices. Human manipulation is far more elegant than that. They will come to you with emergencies, a medical situation that is not quite urgent, a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity that is objectively a scam, a sudden, mysterious debt with no clear origin. Dr. Henry Cloud, in his clinical work on personal limits, draws a critical distinction between a boulder and a knapsack. A boulder is a genuine catastrophe, a weight so crushing that a person cannot lift it alone and genuinely requires community support. A knapsack is daily adult responsibility that every functioning person must carry on their own. When your family knows you have resources, they will hand you their knapsacks while performing the drama of someone pinned beneath a boulder. And if you decline, if you say no, you become the villain. The cold, heartless child who chose money over family. They will weaponize your guilt with surgical precision. They will inventory every sacrifice they made and every diaper they changed, converting parental obligation into a retroactive high-interest debt you apparently owe them for the rest of your life. Look at the historical architecture of the Medici Bank. Their most brilliant financial maneuvers were always conducted through intermediaries. The true depth of their resources was known only to a controlled few. To the broader world, including extended family, they projected deliberate, calculated modesty. You must engineer the same illusion. When financial topics surface at the family table, nod with mild sympathy, complain lightly about rising costs, mention the weight of taxes. Project the image of someone who is managing adequately, but certainly has no liquid capital to spare. Build a financial ghost ship, assets they cannot locate, investments they cannot comprehend, a private treasury that exists entirely outside the perimeter of family awareness. You are not being selfish. You are preserving the relationship by removing the corrosive influence of money from it. You force them to value your presence rather than your utility. You force them to stand on their own foundation. Real financial power does not display itself. It disappears. The sixth revelation, the graveyard of your regrets. There is a powerful and dangerous urge within the human psyche to be completely, totally known by someone. We carry the weight of our past transgressions, our moral compromises, the gray areas we navigated, the people we left behind or betrayed in order to reach where we are today. Sometimes that weight becomes unbearable. You look at your mother, your father, or a sibling, and a sudden, desperate need to confess rises in your chest. You want absolution. You want someone who knows the worst thing you have ever done and still chooses you. Bury that urge. Bury it deep and never excavate it. Your family is not a priest bound by the seal of confession. They are a jury that never disbands, never adjourns, and never forgets. When you confess a dark or calculated transgression to your family, you permanently recalibrate the lens through which they see you. You believe you are revealing your humanity. You are actually introducing them to a version of you they never imagined lived in their household. Study the court of King Philip IV of France. When he moved to destroy the Knights Templar, he did not simply attack their fortifications, he went after their reputation. He extracted confessions of unspeakable offenses. Once those confessions existed on the record, the Templars were finished. It was irrelevant whether the confessions were coerced or stripped of all context. The court and the public could only perceive them as deviants. Your family operates on an identical psychological mechanism. They carry a fixed mental image of who you are, typically a slightly updated version of who you were at 15 years old. If you suddenly inject a piece of brutal, unfiltered reality into that image, if you admit that you deliberately dismantled a competitor's career, that you conducted an affair years ago, that you navigated a deeply unethical business arrangement and came out ahead, that image shatters irrevocably. They will not forgive you. They will catalog you. The human brain is an evolutionary threat detection machine. It catalogs predators. When you confess a ruthless act, your family subconsciously reassigns you to a different category. If he was capable of doing that to a stranger, what is he capable of doing to me? Every interaction from that point forward carries the residue of that confession. When you disagree with them, they will not process it as a simple argument. They will see the calculating person you described yourself as being. When you achieve a new level of success, they will quietly wonder who you used to get there. They will hold your past against you in every future moral disagreement. You will permanently surrender the high ground. Machiavelli argued that a ruler must sometimes act against conventional morality to preserve his position, but he also stated with absolute clarity that a ruler must always appear entirely virtuous to those around him. Your family represents the inner court of your personal life. Keep your graveyard sealed. If you need to examine your past transgressions, do it with a licensed professional who is legally bound to confidentiality and entirely removed from your social world. Let your family believe you are imperfect but fundamentally safe. Protect their illusion. The truth is far too heavy for them to carry responsibly, and when they can no longer hold it, they will drop it directly onto you. The seventh revelation, the cartel's blueprint and your awareness of it. This is the final principle, and it demands the highest level of psychological discipline you possess. As you study power, human behavior, and the architecture of influence, your vision will sharpen. You will begin to see the invisible grid of manipulation operating inside your own family with startling clarity. You will identify your mother's covert patterns. You will recognize your father's emotional unavailability and the way it enabled dysfunction. You will see that your sibling has been designated the golden child, permanently insulated from consequences. You will pinpoint the exact moments they deploy guilt to extract compliance. You will see the entire system laid bare before you. The temptation to name what you see will be almost irresistible. You will want to gather them together, point at the blueprint, and say, "I understand what is happening here. I see the manipulation. I know precisely how this mechanism functions. Do not speak a single word of it." Clinical psychology identifies a concept known as the identified patient. When a family system is profoundly dysfunctional, the system unconsciously selects one member to carry the visible symptoms of that dysfunction. The family then points to that person and declares, "They are the source of our problems. If they were corrected, everything would be fine." If you attempt to psychoanalyze your family to their faces, if you try to dismantle the cartel from within by naming its methods, you will be immediately designated the identified patient. The system will reject your diagnosis with a ferocity you are not prepared for. They will gaslight you. They will insist you are reading situations that do not exist. They will tell you that you have become arrogant, cold, disconnected, unstable. They will form a united coalition against you to defend the existing order of their dysfunction. You cannot heal a diseased organism by standing at its center and announcing that it is sick. Machiavelli observed the volatile, treacherous courts of the Italian city-states with forensic precision. The courtiers who survived were never the ones who stood in the public square and condemned the corruption around them. Those men were executed or poisoned. The survivors were the ones who saw everything with perfect clarity. nodded graciously, participated in the necessary surface-level rituals, and quietly positioned themselves into places of complete, untouchable leverage. Become the observant courtier within your own family. When your mother deploys a guilt maneuver, you recognize it instantly. Your pulse does not accelerate. You do not argue. You execute a boundary with a composed and pleasant expression. I understand you are disappointed. I am not available for that, but we will connect soon. You do not announce that you are enforcing a limit. You simply enforce it. When your sibling attempts to draw you into a conflict triangle, you do not educate them on triangulation theory. You simply decline to participate. You step aside and let them swing at empty space. When you reveal that you understand the game, you eliminate your tactical advantage. You give them advance warning. You force them to evolve their strategies to circumvent your newly stated awareness. Let them believe their old methods are simply failing by coincidence. Let them assume you are distracted or preoccupied. Play the role of the slightly inattentive participant. The most commanding position in any high-stakes dynamic is that of the consistently underestimated player. Observe the system. Navigate it with precision, but never hold a mirror up to it. They have no desire to see their own reflection. They want you to remain in your assigned position, performing your designated role without question. Smile, nod, and slowly, invisibly, continue walking backward toward the door. Pause here for a moment. Take a breath. We have dismantled the romanticized mythology of family. It is uncomfortable. It borders on feeling criminal to examine the people who raised you through this kind of cold, precise lens. There is likely a voice inside you right now, insisting that this perspective is too extreme, that it is paranoia masquerading as strategy. It is not paranoia, it is self-preservation. And here is the profound paradox at the heart of the Machiavellian approach to family. This degree of strategic detachment is, in fact, the only way you can genuinely continue to love them. Consider the alternative, the path of total disclosure. You give them your finances, your confessions, your relationship problems, your evolving beliefs, and your analysis of their dysfunction. What follows? You drown in accumulated resentment. Every family gathering becomes a battlefield. Every incoming call elevates your cortisol before you even answer. You begin to genuinely despise the sound of their voices. You eventually cut them out entirely, and you carry the weight of that bitterness to the end of your life. By constructing this invisible architecture of limits, by carefully regulating what information crosses the boundary, you eliminate the friction. You protect your interior peace so thoroughly that when you do spend time with them, you can actually be present. You can be generous with your time because they cannot extract your foundation. You can appreciate their familiar quirks because those quirks no longer determine your trajectory. You accept them as limited, flawed human beings rather than expecting them to be infallible, unconditional protectors who were never capable of being what you needed. You stop demanding from them what they were never equipped to provide. And in that acceptance, you discover a cold, unshakable stillness. You transition from the child desperately reaching for approval to the sovereign architect of your own existence. They inhabit their world. You govern yours. The border is closed, but the diplomacy remains civil. That is genuine power. You are no longer being controlled by your bloodline. You are simply navigating it. But as you sit with these 7 revelations, one final and deeply unsettling question must surface. If you have to construct walls this fortified simply to survive the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally, what does that tell you about the foundation of everything you were taught to believe? Are you simply surviving the system they built around you? Or are you finally ready to tear up the floorboards and confront what has been underneath all along? If this video fractured something you had been quietly choosing not to examine, understand that what you have seen here is only the outer layer. There are dimensions of dark psychology that cannot be addressed openly in this format without consequences. The most unfiltered material exists exclusively for those who choose to go further. If that is you, You already know what to do. Most will not take that step. That is precisely the point.